Okay, I don't know what's happened to the camera. It looks like it's zoomed in. See, if you have questions as I go along today, we're going to be talking about food intolerances. Well, today, please ask if you're going to watch. If you're watching the replay, please just do hashtag replay and ask questions, because I will also check. We'll check the questions later. So this is a really important topic. It's something I'm always working with people. It's something I've gone through myself. I understand the frustration of it. It's telling me I need to close other applications, which I will do. So if you've got questions, please ask as we go along. But really my aim for today is to explain food intolerances a little bit more, go a bit more deep into why we get certain reactions to food, what's going on, the difference of reactions, so you can understand, and then some of the things that you can do, the testing that we do, some of the causes, that type of thing around food intolerances. It is such a big topic and it is very confusing. So I understand the pain and I understand the frustration. And it can feel like if you're struggling with food intolerances, as in you don't know what is causing your reaction, you can't quite work out what food it is, and you remove things and you don't remove things, and it can actually cause stress and make your condition worse. So getting to the bottom of it is really important. The other thing that I notice is a lot of people don't actually realise they're consuming foods that could be contributing to their condition or their issues. So that basically means like you could have other symptoms such as inflammation, pain, skin issues. It doesn't have to be directly digestion issues. A food intolerance will not show up that way. So I'm just going to debunk some of those confusions, it's a bit of confusion around that, and just explain the basics of what's going on if you're experiencing a food intolerance. I'm holding a lighter here, but I've just lit some Palo Santo to clear my energy. That's why I'm holding a lighter, if you can see. So, okay, first things first. Intolerance versus allergies. So we've got different types of immune reactions that happen in the body. And there's 3 types when we're talking about immune reactions to food. 3 main types. There's IgE, which is an allergic reaction. And this is when people get, anaphylactic reaction to, say, they eat peanuts and they almost, have to have a shot of adrenaline or they'll end up freaking dying. That type of reaction. It can, or a bee sting or something really extreme. A lot of kids these days are allergic to nuts. I have my opinions on the reasons for that as well. But that is the type of reaction. Now, it doesn't have to be that extreme. You could come out in hives. It's usually quite a quick reaction. It's not a reaction that you would get, say, in a day's time. So this is IgE. Hives, rashes, immediate digestive issues could be IgE, but not as strong. It could be a combination of some of them. My dog's trying to get out the door. Hang on, out. He just likes to make it about him. So that's IgE. IgG and IgA are delayed food reactions. So they're not necessarily reactions that happen straight away when we eat the food. We might get inflammation, we might get digestive symptoms that are a few hours delayed, we may get rashes, we may get breakouts, we may get brain fog, like a food hangover, we may get like just poor concentration, poor sleep, those types of things. They can be up to 3 days delayed, right? This is a delayed reaction response. IgG and IgA, okay? So when I'm looking at people, I'm going, are they having an extreme reaction? What do you want? No, that's all there is. My dog is. They're having an extreme reaction, and when they're having IgG, they're not having an extreme reaction, and the IgG one is usually the one that's really hard to figure out, because if the reaction is extreme, you'll end up in hospital, and at some point you'll get tested for it, and then you'll get told. You could usually have both. So some people will have lots of these, and they'll probably also, to be fair, have lots of these because they've got gut issues going on. And hang on a second. What do you want? No. Okay, we'll keep going. There's something he wants to play with. Yeah, play with this. So usually these reactions, like people get these reactions, if that makes sense. It's always when I do a live, he just comes alive. I need to change the time maybe. So that's IgG, IgE, IgA, right? So it's a different immune response, okay? A lot, when we're talking about not this as much, but there's still this gut dysfunction that's happening still with IgE, but with these and these different things are going on. And usually when I say there's both going on is because there's some gut dysfunction going on. The reaction in the gut is slightly different. And it comes back to having a condition which I've spoken about a lot called leaky gut. That's not the technical term. It's called dysbiosis, which basically is when we've got these little, and I'm going to draw it for you. Would you shush? We've got these junctions. So these are our cells. This is our gut. This is the inside of our intestine. This is our bloodstream. I'm going to use a different colour. Inside of intestine. Gut. These are our cells. So they're like little bricks. Okay, and what happens is we have food, we've got bacteria. I've done a whole training on this, and these little bricks that are meant to let food through, we don't break our food down properly, we don't make enough secretions, enough mucus and things in our gut, which protects a lot of things coming through as well, balance of bacteria. There's a whole range of different things. They come through here, it goes into the bloodstream, our immune system sees it. Our immune system also sees it here, so this dysfunction happening here and then goes into the bloodstream and causes inflammation. And this is how other conditions can show up based on the gut. So when we're looking at things going, are there food intolerances? I'm like, okay, let's... what do you want? Are there food intolerances? I'm sort of going, okay, what are the foods that we can identify first to eliminate, and what are the things that we may need to at some point do testing because it's really getting really difficult to figure it out. But working on this is the first thing we want to work on. Some of the common foods that people are sensitive to are wheat, dairy, eggs, peanuts, nuts, nightshades, corn and legumes. And when I say legumes, I mean peanuts, because peanuts is a legume, as well as soy, some other legumes, people, but they're the most two common. Okay, seafood is also included. When I'm talking about nightshades, I mean things like eggplants, tomatoes, paprika, capsicum, those types of things in the nightshade family. Okay, some people will get really severe reactions to nightshades and don't realize. A lot of arthritis type inflammatory joint conditions are affected quite badly by nightshades. Okay, so they're the common ones. Okay, and you can be intolerant, which when we go back to this, is IgG, but you're not allergic. So when you go and get an allergy test, you're like a skin prick allergy test, which is IgE, you're not going to come up, it's not going to come sensitive. And now this is where it comes into the whole paradigm of people going testing for celiac disease, which is autoimmune, and it doesn't come up as a sensitivity, but gluten sensitivity is a thing, okay? And so what it does is it causes an IgG and an IgA response in the body, but we don't have autoimmune antibodies present. Yep. It still causes inflammation, it still causes damage to the gut. It's really common for gluten and dairy. So you can be a sensitive and have an intolerance, but you might not be allergic. I hope that makes sense. With dairy, you could be sensitive to the casein, which is the protein, or other proteins, or you could be sensitive to the lactose. Lactose is the sugar in milk. A lot of people are lactose intolerant. If you have any an Asian ancestry or genetics, you're most likely to be lactose intolerant because they don't. Lots of Asian people don't have the gene they're born without the gene to process the milk, more so than say someone from a European background where it's been around for a lot longer. Different genetics really can affect the way that we process food, the way that we metabolize food, that type of thing, but it's quite common. So lactose intolerance is also more common as an adult because we have lactase, which is the enzyme, as a baby to break down milk, but we lose it once we stop breastfeeding, okay? And sometimes, babies can have intolerances that are passed on from the mum. It depends how they were born, what the state of the microbiome was. And there's intolerances that get passed on through the breast milk. So the baby could be sensitive to certain things. The mum's eating it. They're finding their kids getting reactions. They can get reactions to cow milk stuff. That's a whole other topic. But this is sort of this is the same reaction we're talking about, essentially. So that could be also more IgA. It just depends, right? IgE, right? So allergic, or it could be an intolerance. So they're the common foods. With immune response, when we're talking about gut, so we want to go, okay, there's two ways we can test for this. The gold standard is elimination diet. So number one is elimination. Sorry guys, my dog is driving me mad. I can't do I don't know what he's looking for. He's decided there's something under the cupboard that he wants. Okay, so two is oh my god. Two is testing. Okay, so elimination diet is when you will basically strip back at least all the common foods that people are really sensitive. Wheat, dairy, the things I mentioned before, eggs, peanuts, legumes, legumes, nightshades. And then what you do is you cut it out for 30 days, see how you feel. And then you add one food in back at a time, and then you wait 3 days, and then you try something else, and then you wait 3 days, and then try something else. It's a very tedious process. It can take up to 3 months. I do get people to do this, but I don't usually do it with everything. I at least get them to do it with the main contenders, which is what I mentioned, which is eggs, dairy, wheat. Because they're the things that people want to, I'm going to kill him. Right, in your bed. Come on. So then if you're not going to do elimination diet, you can do testing. And testing is sometimes a relief for people because it can get really frustrating, like I was saying before, and we just want some answers. And sometimes there'll be things that you haven't removed and they'll come up. the thing with testing is you have to be able to eat it. You have to be eating the food for a couple of weeks before you actually test, because if you're not eating the food, it won't come up because it's not an allergy. There needs to be of the food eaten, and it's an IgG and IgA is usually what I'm talking about with this, depending on what sort of symptoms people have. Maybe if it's just food intolerance, you'll do IgG, IgA. If it's more allergic, you'll do IgE, IgG. It's confusing. It can get expensive if you go to town with testing, but sometimes it's needed. So I found this really good in guidance in terms of my own healing. I was getting really frustrated. I went and did the food intolerance testing. There were things that came back on there that I was intolerant to that I didn't realize. Egg whites was a really big one. I now go, it's not going to stay the same. So if I went and got tested now, again, what I would find is that the food intolerance as I have now would probably be different. I'm assuming they would be quite low grade because I don't have huge reactions, but I know that there's foods that I avoid a lot because I do get reactions to them. So if I went and got tested and tested everything, I'd have to eat a little bit of everything and then go and get tested. The test I do usually does about 90, it does like 96 foods, general foods, and which is, a lot of them are like dairy, wheat, soy, corn, different grains, those types of things. Some different fruits, things like that. And then, it's 96 foods. So it can be, there are different tests to do more, it just depends. But that I just want to explain that so you understand. So if you're getting frustrated and going, I can't understand what I'm sensitive to, the idea is that you're not sensitive to these forever, and that you do enough healing that your gut, in all, is okay. Now, I do still know some people who are extremely healthy, their gut health is very good, and they're still, for example, sensitive to nightshades. It causes them joint pain. And this is an immune response that happens. At some point, sometimes there are things that you just know that they're not going to help, they're going to cause inflammation, and there is a price to pay when you consume those foods. You might be able to get away with them having a little bit, like once every now and then, and more than that is a push. So that's the rundown of the foods. The elimination diet is still the gold standard. However, it takes it takes discipline and strictness. It actually, for those of who are in restrictions at the moment or lockdowns, it's a great time to do elimination diets because there's nothing open. So you're cooking everything yourself anyway for the most part, unless people are living on takeaways. And it's a lot easier. When you go out, it's a lot harder. You've got to ask more questions, be like, what's in this, that type of thing. I think it's a lot easier now, even now, than when I did my food alert. I did it like 8 years ago, and there's so many more gluten-free, dairy-free options. You can, just go out and meet people for a coffee. If you can't have coffee, you'll find something else, like a tea, whatever. So I personally think it's easier now than what it was 8-9 years ago. And it is getting easier because a lot more people are catering to those options and it's easier to find. It just takes time and commitment, but if you're on that path and you're going, okay, I really just want to solve my problem, I really want to feel better, I really want more energy, those types of things, and doing it. The step down below that is just doing like a 30-day reboot, which I run with people that I work one-on-one and also in groups. There is one going to come up soon, but I haven't confirmed the date yet. But they are really good too, because in that reboot, what we do is we remove a lot of the big contenders, so wheat and dairy, and you just give yourself a full 28 days to reset. And what happens is people don't realize how bad they feel, because you don't know what you don't know. And when they remove the common things, which are the biggest contenders, I find a lot of people's symptoms disappear and they feel amazing for it. And they don't have to go through this hardcore process of doing it unless their symptoms are really extreme. Now, I've got clients who have extreme symptoms and I'm like, you need to do testing, and then we need to do a reintroduction or elimination, like food. You can either food cycle as well, so you're testing out foods. That's another way to do it. But the way I get people to do it is elimination, or just doing a 30-day reboot to begin with. The challenge in doing a 30-day reboot, 28-day reboot, is you can introduce the foods all at once and then you're still none the wiser to what irritated you. So if you do something like that, I recommend that you be like, okay, I'm just going to introduce one thing at a time and keep going just for a little bit, at least with dairy and wheat and eggs, if you've removed eggs, and see if it irritates. But the easy way is to also do testing. It just costs you a couple of $100. So they're the options. What else did I have to cover in this? Written on my notes. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It can be really beneficial, and if you're the type of person that loves a piece of paper and loves to follow something and is like, no, I can't have it for me, that's what I found. At the time I was living with other people, I found it really difficult. I had it stuck on the fridge. It was easy for me to go, no, these are the foods I can't eat. And there were some weird things in there too, like amaranth. I was like, I don't even know when I eat amaranth. There was some sort of cross-contamination happening. So that's really interesting. The other thing that I do know people can do, which is a really good experiment, particularly if you're dealing with weight loss, is you can also measure your blood glucose reaction to food and go and buy yourself a blood glucose monitor, which costs a little bit, but not too much. You can buy it off Amazon. And the tabs and measure your blood glucose immediately or 20 minutes after and 2 hours after you have a meal and see what and track your blood glucose. That's a really good food reaction too, but you're doing it on a different level of going, how is this impacting my blood glucose levels? Because that's the other thing, is everyone is different with that as well, because what might raise my blood glucose is going to be very different to what raises your blood glucose. If you've got any questions, let me know. But this gives you some guidance in terms of if you are reacting to foods, if you're struggling with it, you might, reach out to me. We can have a chat or ask any questions and just go, okay, maybe I need a bit of support and figure out, do I need to do some testing, or should I be just trying and just removing the main contenders to begin with, gluten and dairy, nuts, peanuts, eggs, to begin with, and see if I'm sensitive to them and see how I go. And then if you get no luck, then you can keep going. The important thing is also to remember that stress plays a massive role with food intolerances. Cortisol degrades the lining of our gut, and so when we're stressed and when we're nutrient deficient, so for example in zinc, in vitamin A, in vitamin D, our immune system isn't going to function as well. It becomes dysfunctional. It becomes either overactive, and that's usually what we're talking about when we've got food intolerances. That down, and doing that by adding in lots of fresh living foods, really eating an anti-inflammatory diet, which is what we do in the reboot, and what I do in my program, and learning to manage your stress, move your body, drink more water, remove the things that are going to cause stresses to the body, because that is what heightens your immune system as well. And I almost feel like there is always an element, always an emotional element as well, of us not being able to regulate our nervous system, not being able to calm ourselves down when we're having food reactions. And it's a bit of a catch-22. It's the same with people with skin conditions. we get stressed about it. The stress makes our immune system more heightened and more dysfunctional. Then we have more, our symptoms worsen. So we've really got to come at it from different angles, from the biochemical as well as the emotional, dealing with emotional and regulating our nervous system. Because if we don't do both at the same time, the nutrition's the foundation, but the nervous system is the big regulation. It's the big umbrella that like encompasses us and wraps us. And so we've got to get the foundation right, but we've also got to get the umbrella, right as well. So it's protecting us. Essentially, we're keeping it sound and safe, and it's functioning properly. All right. I hope you found that helpful. Apologies about Ned, who has now calmed down like a crazy dog. He did this last week as well. I will see you guys all soon. I hope if for anyone who is in lockdown, you guys are surviving, please reach out if you're struggling as well. Please use this group as support if that's what you need. And I will see you all soon. Okay, bye.